Hegel originally considered calling the phenomenology the science of the experience of consciousness. To modern readers, consciousness often suggests subjective awareness or the contents of the mind. But Hegel is interested in something both broader and more familiar, a folk version of the use of the word consciousness that you will not find too strange, but that is underdeveloped in our ordinary life. Here's what I mean. You already know a certain feeling. You've been turning something over, a problem, a sentence, a face you can't quite place, and then, without warning, it settles. The confusion doesn't dissolve gradually, it snaps into place. You stop asking. Something that was unstable a moment ago now simply is what it is, and you move on. Call this the experience of closure. It isn't a philosophical concept yet. It's just something you live through many times a day in matters as small as recognizing a word and as large as understanding a person. And notice, this is already, in the loosest sense, what consciousness means for most of us in ordinary speech. To be conscious of something is for it to have settled into view, to have stopped being a question. I raise this now because it gives us the most honest way in. A first natural guess would be, consciousness for Hegel just is that click, the moment things settle. And that guess isn't wrong exactly. It's just not deep enough. And seeing why it isn't deep enough is most of the work ahead of us. Because Hegel's real question isn't that closure happens. It's, what kinds of closure are even available to a mind at a given stage of its development? Why does each one, examined closely, come apart? And what makes one way of settling experience richer, more adequate to what it's trying to grasp, than the one before it? Ordinary closure is a feeling, a psychological event that happens to you. Hegel is after something else, not a feeling of certainty, but the actual structure by which a determinate way of understanding the world is tested, found wanting on its own terms, and reorganized into something more adequate. That process is not merely psychological, and for Hegel, it isn't simply personal. It's logical, and in a real sense, historical. You are conscious only when the object of consciousness is available as a real difference in the conceptual development of the concept. So ancient Romans could not be conscious of the idea of universal natural rights, even if someone presented them with a time-traveling teacher. Likewise, the scientist, the shaman, and the ordinary observer may witness the same event while inhabiting profoundly different inferential worlds. What differs is not the retinal image, but the conceptual resources through which experience reaches determination. Experience is never encountered as a bare, neutral given, detached from the standpoint of reason that says, this here is what counts. I know this folk notion of closure is going to sound too thin next to what you'd expect from a real method. But it's worth remembering that Hegel himself inherited this very tension. He came out of a tradition, the tradition of Bildung, of formation, that was trying to repair a division Kant had left standing between a spontaneous, form-giving understanding and a sensibility that seemed to hand it content from somewhere outside thought altogether. Hegel's wager was that you couldn't heal that division by finding a better method. You had to rewrite what philosophy itself was for. Philosophy is a history the concept writes of its own formation, always a step behind itself, always catching up to what it has already become. If that idea intrigues you, this course will help you cross one of philosophy's greatest and most rewarding books.